Think about how many packages you touch every single day. That water bottle, the cereal box, that jar of pasta sauce. We open them, use what's inside, and toss them without a second thought. But behind every single one of those is this hidden world, a really complex system of engineering and logistics and rules that we never ever see. So today, let's dive in and expose the secret life of packaging.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You grab a drink, you give it a little shake, and whoops, now you're wearing it. Or you're wrestling with a jar that feels like it's been welded shut. How is it that some packages just work, they feel right, while others are just a total pain?
Well, I can tell you it has absolutely nothing to do with luck. Not at all. Those good experiences, and yeah, the bad ones too, they are the direct result of this incredibly standardized, almost invisible system. And we're about to crack it wide open.
So our whole journey starts right at the beginning, at the design stage. This is where the really critical decisions get made, and they're all governed by three fundamental ideas: form, fit, and finish.
Now, on the surface, this sounds pretty simple. Form is just the shape of the thing, the bottle or the box. Fit is how well that cap screws on, or how neatly the bottle sits in the case. But, and this is the key, these two ideas are deeply connected. You make one little choice about the form, and it sets off this massive domino effect for the entire system.
And you can see this domino effect everywhere. So, let's say for a pasta sauce, you go with a glass jar for its form. It just feels premium, right? It protects the flavor. But that one decision immediately creates a fit challenge. Now it's heavy and it's breakable. A plastic bottle, though, is super lightweight, it won't shatter, but its challenge is making sure that its thinner, lighter neck can create a perfect seal millions and millions of times.
And that brings us to the third piece of our puzzle, the finish. And no, we're not talking about how shiny or matte it is. In the world of packaging, finish is a super specific term. It means the threads on the neck of the container. That's it. It is the crucial point of contact, the one interface between the bottle and the cap that makes or breaks the entire seal. This is exactly why you can't just invent your own threads. You have to use globally recognized standards from groups like CTEE in Europe or ISBT. These standards are literally the only way to guarantee performance. They stop leaks. They keep the fizz in your soda. They let factories cap millions of bottles at lightning speed. And, most importantly, they save all of us from those caps that are either impossible to open or way too loose.
And this idea of fit, it goes way beyond just the cap. Look at this number, 600 by 400 millimeters. It might not seem like much, but it is basically a magic number from an ISO standard. If you design your box to these dimensions, or a neat fraction of them, it's going to fit perfectly with every other box, stacking up like a perfect game of Tetris on a pallet. That one single decision makes shipping insanely efficient, from the factory all the way to the back of the store.
Okay, so you have a package with perfect form, fit, and finish. That's great, in a lab. But can it survive the real world? Now it has to run the gauntlet. It has to prove it can handle the chaos of distribution and all the rules that come with it.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Design for distribution is as critical as design for shelf. You can design the most gorgeous package on the planet, but if it gets crushed or leaks before a customer even lays eyes on it, it's a complete failure. That journey through the supply chain isn't some afterthought, it's a core part of the design itself.
So how do you know if it's going to make it? Well, you essentially torture it. You put it through hell. Standardized tests, like this one from ISTA, will first bake it and freeze it to mimic real-world temperatures. Then they shake it violently to simulate a bumpy truck ride. And then they drop it, over and over, from different heights and angles. If it can survive all that, it can probably survive anything. But just surviving the journey isn't the only hurdle. There are rules, and I'm not talking about the ingredients list on the label. I'm talking about rules that are literally built into the shape and function of the package. A perfect example? Child resistance. That's not a warning sticker, it's a structural requirement. In the US, a package has to pass these really intense performance tests. Yeah, with actual panels of children and adults. And in Europe, similar rules demand these kinds of closures for certain products. What that means is the law is dictating your design from day one.
So let's assume our package survived its brutal journey, and it finally lands on the retail shelf. Awesome. But now it has a totally new job. It has to speak the right language at the point of sale. And guess what? There are hidden standards controlling that too.
Oh,
We've all been in this line at the checkout. The cashier scans an item, beep, nothing. They try again, still nothing. The line gets longer, everyone gets annoyed. So what's going on? You guessed it, it's not bad luck, it was probably a design choice that doomed that barcode from the very start.
You see, barcode quality is a science. It's completely measurable. There's an ISO standard that basically gives it a report card with a grade from A to F. An A is a perfect scan. An F is a total fail and the cause of that checkout line frustration. And that grade depends on everything from print contrast to the clear space around the code. And a huge factor is just simple size and placement. The Global Barcode Authority, GS1, has really clear rules. The standard size is about 37 millimeters wide. Now, you can shrink it, sure, but only down to 80% of that size. If you go any smaller or you try to stick it on a really curved surface, you are just asking for a failing grade at the register.
And it's not just the barcodes. Even that iconic brand color you know and love is governed by standards. There's a specific ISO standard for printing that makes sure the Coca-Cola red on a can looks exactly like the red on a cardboard box. It's how our brand keeps its visual promise to you.
So our package has been bought, it's been used, but its story is far from over. In fact, this final stage, what we could call its afterlife, is now so critical that it's completely changing how packages are designed from the very start.
The world is changing, and it is changing fast. New laws called Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, are popping up all over the globe. Deadlines are already on the books in places like the EU and California, and what they say is pretty simple. Very soon, if your packaging isn't truly recyclable or compostable, you could face huge fees or even be banned from selling it at all.
This means the entire decision-making process for package design is being turned on its head. As you can see, recyclability rules are now the biggest driver. They're taking up the largest piece of the pie, often forcing designers to make different choices than they would have for cost or for pure brand appeal just a few years back. So, how on earth do you design for this new reality? Well, thankfully, you don't have to guess. Industry groups like the Association of Plastic Recyclers in the US and CFlex in Europe publish these incredibly detailed design playbooks. They give you the rules for everything, from using a single type of material to making sure your labels and glues don't mess up the whole recycling process.
So at the end of the day, a successful package is never ever just a pretty box. It's a single, deeply integrated system. We've seen how one tiny change in its form can ripple out and affect its fit, its tough journey through distribution, and even its final fate in a recycling plant. The only way to win this game is to think in systems, test everything early and often, and build your design on that solid foundation of global standards.
In the end, every single cap that seals perfectly, every box that shows up without a dent, every barcode that scans on the first try, it's telling a story. It's a story of this invisible system working just as it should. So the next time you pick something up off the shelf, take a second look. Because that package, that's the brand's final handshake with you. What story is it telling?